Welcome to Manifest, hosted by international evangelist, teacher, and author Perry Stone. Enjoy unique insight into prophetic and practical truth. It's time to feast on fresh manna, so get ready to be blessed and encouraged. And now, here is your host and teacher, Perry Stone.
Everybody say this with me, the American dream. Say it like you like it, the American dream. What is it? Being able to choose your career, being able to choose your religion, being able to have a family and raise them, being able to make as much money as you want, invest it how you wish, buy property, land, and leave an inheritance for your children. We are one of the greatest nations of leaving inheritances and passing on financial blessing of any nation in the world. However, there's a new theory. Actually, it's not new. It's been in certain colleges and universities for a long time. It's just surfaced more recently, and that is capitalism. Capitalism has become a dirty word. There's a new word that's surfaced recently called colonialism. Colonialism is basically that the British and the English went into these third world countries and used and abused the people and took their resources and used them for their own purposes and for their own power. And now somehow the colonial nations are going to have to pay back what they did to these individuals. Now, I'm not here to debate that. There may be truth to that. There may be some truth to the idea of that, but I'm not here to debate that. What I want to talk about is a $16 trillion debt and why we reward people for laziness. There is a difference, and I want to begin by saying this. There is truly a difference. America, I believe, has been blessed because we have been a nation that has helped provide to the needs of those who are poor. God, in His Word, will supernaturally bless a people or a nation who care for those who are truly poor among us. And we in America have people that did not have the education. We have people that have physical handicaps. And it's our duty as loving, caring, compassionate people to do whatever we can to provide food and provide help, provide education and assistance to those who literally are not able to have it. I am for that. That is a part of the gospel. But something has changed, and I'd like to use an example from Cleveland, Tennessee as a part of that. A gentleman that is one of our workers at our building went to a man who did not have a job and said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pay you 12 hours a day, $12 an hour to just clean up the job site. That's all you have to do. Sweep here, pick up stuff, throw it in the trash. The man worked for 1 week. The man then came back to my friend and said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to quit this job. He said, what do you mean you needed a job? He said, well, I know I needed one, but here's what I did. I went home and added up all the money I'm getting from the government. And I found out the government's paying me $18 an hour to stay home. So I prefer not to work because I can make $18 an hour staying home with all my benefits, including my food stamp help. And so I'd rather not work for 12 when I can get 18. Now, I do know, and I want to say again, we should help those who are poor. However, in America right now, the highest number of people in history are on food stamp help. 47% of America is getting some type of help. Now, folks, please listen to me. We have a $16 trillion debt. If you have any mathematical calculations in your head and any knowledge of history, you cannot keep giving people free stuff. You are going to run out of money. So the answer is, let's raise taxes. Well, that's what France did. And now the businessmen of France are leaving France for other countries. That is what Greece has tried to do. The biggest company in Greece just pulled out of Greece. People who are business people who make money and hire people are not going to put up with working overtime and working people overtime to have a government get in their pocket and take 50% to 80% of what they make. I'm just sorry, but it's not going to work that way anymore. It does not work that way. Here's what I want to share with you. Winston Churchill made this statement. The one thing that we have learned from history is we don't learn from history. In the 1930s, Ralph Nelson noted that empires last an average of 200 years. Actually, America, I believe, is an empire. As an empire, you you have to have your economy that centers, that your economy is the economy all nations look up to. The dollar has been that source. As an empire, you have to have the greatest military in the world. We do. As an empire, wars are decided by your decisions or stopped by your decisions. Now, I'm not going to go into all the reasons why I believe America is an empire, but we, from our documents of 1776, our independence from the British colonization, then and from the British, we have been an empire. All empires go through 5 cycles. Clean your ears out and listen to this, please. And they eventually end in self-destruction. Number 1, Ralph Nelson noted in the 1930s, bold arrogance applied to resolving problems eventually happens in these empires. We now have 2 opposing groups in Washington that can get nothing done because nobody wants to take credit for that which is bad, but they want to take credit for anything that's good. Number 2, he said, here's what will happen before you self-destruct. You will have unrelegated immigration and the dilution of the culture, meaning people will come into your nation, but they never assimilate with your nation. They never really become Americans. They dress their culture away. They act their culture away. They never assimilate with your country, and in the past it was the truth as well. Misplaced selfishness that sustains a lower quality of population. In other words, they depend on Greece. They depend on the government of Rome. They depend on the government to help them. Number 4, loss of respect for social values and traditions. Today, marriage is mocked. Church is considered obsolete. We're already there. Number 5, loss of economic discipline and the overextension of your government finances and resources. I do not have to tell you, we have been there all the way back in the Bush administration, and now we're already in there higher at over $16 trillion in debt. Now, what is really happening, in my opinion, now you got to understand, and I know most of you know me, that I do study prophetic things. I actually, my staff laughs at me, but I actually keep the Fox News Network on here. I have a laptop over here at the Drudge Report. I've got my laptop over here where I'm writing messages. I've got music going on over here. My staff says no one has a brain like me. I have to agree. I confuse myself a lot of times because my brain's going 5 different directions. But I can multitask probably like anybody. Is anybody on staff here? Mark, raise your hand, Mark. Can I multitask better than anybody you've ever met? It's just a gift. Don't ask me how. And they'll say, pay attention to me. I said, you just said blah, 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 blah. How did you know you were typing? Because this part of my brain kicked in. That's what I tell them. This part of my brain kicked in. Now, having observed this, I'm going to tell you what's happening. There is something called democratic socialism. Democratic socialism is what they've had in Europe that has failed them because it makes a lot of promises for free stuff that after years and years and years pass, it cannot fulfill the promises. That's why Greece is having riots. They have to cut back on the free stuff. They have to cut back on what they promised to the unions. And so now people are burning the cities down, fighting and hollering and throwing rocks at police because nobody wants to take a cut. Now, there is a difference, however, and I want to make this clear, between communism and democratic socialism. And I want to give you one of the big differences between the two. Communism is redistributing the wealth equally to everybody. You do one job, you all wear the same kind of shoes, you all wear the same kind of clothes. Nobody is above the other except the leaders. But among the common people, everybody's equal. Here's the difference between socialism, democratic socialism, and communism. Communism does not allow you to have a religion. Communism does not allow you to have faith in God. Communism is atheism. You look at the old school communists, they were not believers in God. They did not have faith. So they eliminate God and Christianity and the freedom of God and Christianity out of their belief system. Democratic socialism will allow you to have a God. It can be any God, though. Now, the difference is that Christianity is not superior. Christ is not superior. All religions become the same. So you can believe what you want to believe. As long as under democratic socialism, you are tolerant of everybody else's religion. In democratic socialism, when it rules a country, you cannot get up and say that particular religious belief is wrong. You'll get in trouble for that. You've got to say everybody is a way to heaven. Every religion is good, and etc. Now, the word used now to describe people who like democratic socialism, we used to call them liberals, but now they're called progressives. Now, the word progressive was a good choice of words to use, because if you don't believe in it, then you're not progressive. If you don't believe in it, you're old school. If you don't believe in it, you're too old-fashioned. So it was a good word for the liberals to use, because it sounds like anyone who doesn't agree with them is backwoods and doesn't understand and have the knowledge that we have. Progressives will say this: go to your little churches on Sunday morning in America, that's okay. However, keep what you believe inside the four walls of your building. However, we will allow you to have your religious beliefs as long as you have it in the pews. Wait till next week till you discuss your Christianity. Do not do it in public schools. Do not do it in universities. Do not do it in public places. In other words, don't take your religion outside of your doors. If you speak up on your religion, if you say certain things are sin and wrong, we will malign you. We will make you look like an idiot. We will make you look foolish. We will make you look stupid. You've seen them do it to people like Sarah Palin, a godly woman, a true woman of God, and yet the secular media attacks her on a consistent basis. Come on and help me preach one time. You know it's true. Now, I want to ask a question. If communism or extreme democratic socialism works so good, why did millions of Jews try to get out of Russia and even pay to get out to go back to Israel? If it really works, why is it that in China, everybody wants to get to Singapore? Come on, help me preach here. Why is it that hundreds of thousands of people left Cuba and wanted to come to Miami if communism is such a great thing? Why is it that North Koreans are always trying to cross into the free South Korea if communism is so great? Another thing I don't understand, I don't see any left-wing leaning progressive professor from Harvard or Yale or whatever, Princeton, trying to leave their state to go live in Russia. I'm puzzled. I'm puzzled. They want to teach this stuff, but yet they don't want to go live and move over in those countries to live. If it is so great, why is Greece going bankrupt? If democratic socialism is so great, why is Italy going bankrupt? Why is Spain going bankrupt? Why is Portugal going bankrupt? Now, I'm not here to be someone who shares with you the economic problems and the woes of the world. I want to talk about the Nazi Party platform. Now, how many of you do not know what the word N-A-Z-I means? Raise your hand. You know Nazi, but you don't know what it means. Raise your hand. It's not an embarrassment. Okay. The Nazi Party platform, the word Nazi is National Socialist German Workers' Party. National Socialist German Workers' Party is what the Nazi Party was. They didn't just come into power in the time of Hitler. They actually started in 1919 and came into the position of power in Germany in 1933 with the rise of Hitler, who really put the strength of the Nazi Party with him and organized the Nazi Party. Most of you know the swastika and the emblems and the eagles that were connected with Germany. I'm going to give you right now what frightens me the most about comparing the 1930s to where America has come. These are German eyewitnesses who lived from 1933 all the way to the death of Hitler. These are people who were in Germany. These are people who saw what happened. Now, think about our day today. Think about how it was then, and let us see if there is a comparison. Eyewitnesses said that the German government started monitoring everything that you did, including letters that you wrote or things that you said in public. Now, in case you do not know this, we're being told now what kind of food to eat in public school. A school in the Midwest was fined $15,000 for having a soda pop that their students could buy because they wanted it, the government wanted it removed. They're monitoring school lunches, By the way, it didn't go through. They were going to monitor the amount of dirt that farmers stirred up down in Texas and tax them according to the amount of dirt that they stirred up. Then eyewitnesses said the German government began to give out massive free stuff, which increased German spending. And I said a moment ago, 47% of the people now on food stamp. Think about what I said, 47%. Almost half of America that has to depend on food stamps from the government. This is a quote from an eyewitness. Newlyweds, under Hitler, newlyweds immediately received a $1,000 loan from the government to establish a household. We had big government programs for families. All daycare and education was free. High schools were taken over by the government. College tuitions were subsidized. Everyone was entitled to free handouts such as food stamps, clothing, and housing. Interesting, isn't it? However, the woman goes on to comment, not everything was free. The German government eventually had to raise taxes on everybody's income to 80%, meaning that $8 out of every 10, 80 out of every 100, 800 out of every 1,000 went back to the government to help keep the free stuff coming in. Now, right now, if you add up all taxes that Americans pay, which is federal tax, state tax, local tax, sales tax, tax to have an automobile, tax for this, tax for that, many Americans, not all, but many Americans actually who work pay 50% of their income in all the combined taxes that come due to them, 50%. This is an average. The German government then began a series of regulations. They actually got to the point where if you had a restaurant, you had to have a certain type of table in that restaurant or they would shut your restaurant down. They controlled what you would buy to put in your restaurant. They controlled farming and how you did it. Now, here's a big one. Hitler and the Nazis began to use class warfare to win the population of the common people over to them. I'm going to give you a quote. Here's a quote from the 1930s. We National Socialists, now that is again Nazi, we National Socialists are enemies, deadly enemies to the present capitalist system and its exploitation on the economically weak. We are resolved under all circumstances to destroy that system. In other words, anyone with wealth is looked down upon in order that the lower class people, or I should say it this way, the economically poorer people will fight against the rich and give the support where the Nazis can come in and get what they wish. Let's talk about German health care for a moment. The German healthcare system was controlled by the government. Kitty Werthmann wrote this as a testimony who lived back then. Before Hitler, we had very good medical care. Many American doctors trained at the University of Vienna. After Hitler, hospital care was socialized, free for everyone. Now check this out. Doctors were salaried by the government. The problem was, since it was free, the people were going to the doctor for everything. When a good doctor arrived at his office at 8 in the morning, 40 people were already waiting on him. And at the same time, the hospitals were full. If you needed elective surgery, you had to wait 1 to 2 years for your time to arrive. There was no money for research as it was poured into socialized medicine. Research at medical schools literally stopped. So, now listen to me, this is going to happen in America. The best doctors left Austria and immigrated to other countries. I don't want to get into this like it's a hobby horse or try to be negative about it, but I want to tell you that if you've been paying attention, the bill was passed before it was read. So now we discover that the Supreme Court has said it's going through. Now we discover what's in it. If you go to a doctor, if you're an old, let me tell you who's going to suffer with this the most is people my mother's age. It is the older people over 65 that reach retirement that go on Medicare or Medicaid. They're the ones who are going to suffer the most from this, because here's what's happening right now. In my own town, there are doctors who are no longer taking Medicaid patients. They've cut them off. And so the people are running around. I have some friends, they're running around trying to find a doctor that can take them. Number two, if you go to your doctor more than once a month, the hospital is going to be penalized for the visit. They have in that bill, you need to go read it, look it up yourself. They have in that bill so many penalties for hospitals, so many penalties for doctors. Your health care, oh, you might get it free, and you might get to go if you're lucky enough to see one. How do I know? Because I went to Canada to preach, and I wanted to know why in Canada so many Canadians crossed the border to come to America to get health care. If it was such great health care, they said, oh, it's free. I said, tell me about it. The church I was preaching at, the pastor said, let me give you 2 illustrations. I had a lady in my church that busted her knee, older lady. So in America, you could go to an emergency room probably within maybe 30 minutes, an hour, get in there and get it taken care of. She sat in the emergency room 38 hours with a busted knee. Doctors walking out, they wouldn't give her pain pills. They couldn't just give her pills. She sat there in pain for 38 hours. Another member busted a shoulder blade, broke it, and wanted to get the whatever he needed for it. 48 hours sitting in an emergency room. You imagine this now. Now, I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm going to predict something. You've seen nothing yet when this thing goes totally through. Now, there's a part of this they have hid from you. In Germany, God was removed out of public schools and was pushed out of public life. In Germany, this is scary. They implemented gun control legislation to eventually confiscate guns. You might not think it's planned. It is absolutely being planned. Here's a speech Hitler gave. Next came gun registration. People were getting injured by guns. Hitler said the real way to catch criminals was by matching the serial numbers on the guns. Y'all haven't heard about that gun running thing that we did where we sold guns to people in Mexico who were drug people and kept the serial number saying that we're going to catch them by the serial number, and they're killing everybody with those guns. If a conservative would have done that, he would already be out without a job. I'm just being honest. He'd be gone by now. Okay. Most citizens were law-abiding and dutifully marched to the police station to register their firearms. Not long afterwards, the police said that it was best for everyone to turn in their guns. The authorities already knew who had them, so it was completely ridiculous not to comply to them. So in other words, here's what the plan was. Get the guns out of the hands of all the people so when you go to arrest the Jews, they have no way of defending themselves. That's how they got all those Jews without a fight, because there were no guns. They were going to create this utopian society. I'm happy to present to you the DVDs and the CDs of the 9 services at the recent Hixson main event. Here are the titles of the messages. I preached a message called The Nahum Code and the American Empire. Tommy Bates preached a message, A Cave Praise. On Wednesday afternoon, I preached on Glimpses Behind the Gates, dealing with the mysteries of heaven. On Thursday morning, Jensen Franklin preached Teaching Angels How to Worship. On Thursday night, I preached a message called The First Covenant and the Final Battle. Wait till you hear this one. Friday morning, The Dumbest Thing I've Ever Heard in Church by Randy Caldwell. What a message that was. Friday night, I preached on The Designed Death to the American Dream. This was probably the most requested message in the history of our ministry as it comes to the fall events. Saturday morning, the message was preached, and I preached this message, When Destiny Prevails. Then Saturday night, I came back with a very, very important message, When Believers Sin Against Other Believers. Many people are losing their victory in their spiritual life because they're sinning against other believers and may not even realize it. Now, I'm going to tell you how to get these 9 messages. You can get the DVD album. The DVDs have portions of the music, the entire message, and also portions of the altar services, along with the pictures that I showed on the screen. The CDs have the message only. Now, here's the ordering information. To get the Hixson CDs for a gift of $60 or more, ask for offer 12HX CD when calling or writing. And then if you want to get the DVDs, ask for a 12HX DVD, and for a gift of $95 or more, you can receive the DVDs of the 9 messages from the Hixson meeting.
Now let me just tell you how to do that. You can do the 1-888-21-BREAD number, that's a toll-free number, or you can order at our website at perrystone.org at any time, or if you'd like to go ahead and just send in the check for the CDs of $60 or more, the DVDs $95 or more, then you can contact us at Perry Stone, P.O. Box 3595, Cleveland, Tennessee 37320. These messages are very informative. They're very eye-opening. There's 3 of those that are major prophetic messages, and the 9 messages will be a great album and a great resource tool for you and your entire family. Once again, the main event is now available. On our program, you only see about 22 minutes of a message that normally lasts 60 to 70 minutes in length. And we have to edit certain parts of it out that we don't allow on TV, but will be on the actual CD and DVD, which is unedited. So order your set of DVDs or CDs today. This particular message that was preached at Hixson on this Friday night service was, according to the individuals who take care of all of our CDs and DVDs, the most requested message ever preached at a main event. And our main events go back to the 1980s. When you hear the entire teaching, I talked about Germany. And we had a woman from Germany in the service, in the altar service, who said everything Perry has just said, the parallels of America and Germany, are absolutely on us right now. It's the exact same. And I want you to get this in your spirit, because we can never forget that history can repeat itself. And we are doomed to failure if we allow ourselves to fall the way that previous empires have fallen. And we have to know what to do in order to pull ourselves out of the muck and the mire and the situations that we have found ourselves in so many times. So this is in our series, DVD or CD, from the Hixson main event. You only saw a portion of it, a small portion of it. The rest of it is available. And I want to say something. I know that those watching do not understand this, and I get criticized for this, but there are things I do not put on the manifest telecast because of where it goes, the countries that it goes into. Now, someone says, well, what are you afraid of preaching? No, because obviously, I preach it, and then you get to hear it later on the DVD or CD. But here's the reason why. There are things I could preach and say that if it's aired on a Christian station in another country, then it could be taken wrong, and then that station gets harassed in that particular country. You know, here in America, we have freedom of speech by and large, and so we don't have to go through the ordeals that foreign countries do. So that's the reason why that I edit certain things out, because we're going into the North, the South, the East, and the West, 180 nations with our program. So I want you to understand the reason I do that. Anyway, let me just add to you that as we come toward the end of the year, we want to thank each of you for praying for us and supporting us. Grace World Outreach Church, we're coming to you January the 18th through the 20th, and then we're coming to World Outreach Worship Center in Newport News, Virginia, January the 25th through the 27th, and then the World Outreach the Assembly of West Monroe, February the 8th through the 13th, and I'm just about out of time here, so what I'd like for you to do is go to perrystone.org. Now, you need to go to perrystone.org and check out where we have our ministry Facebook page. Nearly 60,000 people that follow us on Facebook. This is where we give you pictures from the meetings, pictures from the building, pictures from the events that's going on. We even took pictures of our plane trip coming back one time, and people just loved it. So follow me on Facebook. I'll be back next week.